chase Chris to his car. Chris, you know I'm funny. And he would just look at me and go, you're not ready. And I didn't understand what he was saying, but I wasn't. I was not ready.
Now, what do you understand now about not being ready that you didn't understand then?
Desperation. When you're in desperation, every artist needs to learn this. You do go through desperation where you think, I gotta make it. But see, that's not the career you really want. I remember Cat Williams, and Cat Williams is the one who told me this. He was like, once you get rid of your desperation, you're gonna blow up. And I was like, you, I'm desperate because I'm broke. He said, no, you're not. You just don't have no money. You have talent, though.
You have talent, so you're not broke. You just don't have no money.
And you need to start making your decisions from your talent. From your talent, not your desperation. That's why it took me so long to make it.
Wow.
Because I was never supposed to make it when I was as good as I was.
Was I desperate for 40 years, too? Yes, I was. I was, oh, girl.
And it's so funny because when Chris saw me that night, I had no to give. My brother had died. Mm-hmm. I was like really in survival mode. I was just more of just performing because I knew I was good. And I didn't give a
what was the Mohawk shift? I'm just curious about that.
The Mohawk shift was after my brother died. I didn't feel like combing my mother hair no more. I was in the go ahead and kill me, God, because you got everybody else. So obviously I'm next.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, I feel like SNL somewhat saved my life.
And the gag for me about SNL is you didn't even want to do it. When you get the call from Chris. Chris is like, you're ready. He calls you. You have an audition.
He calls me. He goes, yeah, so I saw you the other night. You're so funny. I was like, I already knew that, Chris. And he was like, yeah, but you're ready now. He was like, and I talked to Lauren. They're going to call you from SNL. And I was like, what? I almost hung up on him. I was like, why the would you do that? He was like, shut up. You're going to the audition. And he hung up on me. And then, like, 2 days later, Lindsay Shookers called me. She's like, I'm gonna fly you out. I went out there with all the arrogance. But by the end of the week, they made me want that job.
When Ghostbusters happened, and the trolling, and...
People have to really know how specific that is. None of the other girls got trolled like I did. And I hate to say it like this, but was because I was a black woman. I really hate to say that because it's like...
It's the truth, though.
It's like, I wanted to be like, I don't want this to be about that. But it was.
Yeah.
And it was a shame. And the reason I say it all the time is because I think people need to hear this. I was getting videos of white people spitting on my picture, hanging my doll. They're gonna kill me. They're gonna find out where my family. They're gonna kill me and my family. Like, it was just horrible. Everybody was like, well, you know, ignore it. Like, no, accountability is what needs to be set in this society right now. Y'all can't just do to people and think you could just get away with it.
It's so disturbing.
It's very disturbing. It's sad. It's sad.
And so much of it is racist, it's colorist, it's misogynist, misogynoir. But this is our beauty issue. And around the Ghostbusters moment, too, you tweeted about the difficulty in finding a dress for the premiere.
And let me tell you, that day, my stylist came to the house. I remember standing in the door, and I was like, I cannot believe that no one wants to give me a dress. I was like, that, I'm gonna say that on Twitter. I was like, I'm gonna remember who didn't want to dress me. I wasn't even trying to tweet to start. I just was like, I need to say this, because I'm like, why ain't nobody giving me no dress? And that turned into a big thing. Like, it turned, and then Christian Siriano, I always loved him.
Christian.
And man, my red dress was the total pretty girl moment. He was like, it's gotta be red. And I just remember when we put it on, my stylist teared up. He was like, oh my God, you look so pretty. It was very nice.
Yeah.
It was really sweet.
How did Star Search happen? By this time, you were already modeling.
I was already modeling. I was in New York. I guess somebody said you should do the show.
Yeah.
And I got on it and I couldn't believe it. It was amazing.
Amazing. What do you think about your hair looking back?
That was the thing back in the day. We didn't have anybody to do our hair. Like, so many times I would be doing, you know, a modeling shoot and they would either pull my hair back because they didn't know what to do, or it would look crazy. And I used to always fight for hair more than I would fight for makeup, because I always felt like I can tweak my makeup, but my hair, I need somebody black to do my hair.
Yeah. The story of you getting your first modeling agent, I love that story.
I mean, that
Can you
story
tell
is
us the
crazy.
story? Can you tell us the story?
So a friend of mine had asked me to be an extra in an orange juice commercial. I didn't know what an extra was, and and he told me. So we go to this commercial, and it's 2 days. On the second day, they had, you know, principal actors, and one of them was this really pretty black girl. And I went up to her and I said, I want to do what you're doing. How do I do that? And she was not having it. She did not. She was like, girl, bye. And so I found out she was with Irene Marie, which was an agency in Fort Lauderdale. I asked my mom to borrow her car. I'm driving there. And I get to Fort Lauderdale and I stop at a red light. And when I stop at the red light, I poke my head out the window to check my makeup. At that time, I decided I needed lip gloss. So as I'm reaching for my lip gloss on the passenger side, a hand comes in the car, scares the out of me, right? And it was the woman behind me in the stoplight, and she had a card, and she said, you should be a model. And it was the agency that I was going to that I didn't have an appointment, I didn't have photos, I just thought, I'm going to see if I can do this.
How do you feel beauty standards have changed? Have they changed? How has your relationship to beauty changed as you've gotten older too, moving from model to actress to housewife?
It has absolutely changed. I know growing up for me, there wasn't a lot of representation on television.
Yeah.
So I would watch like One Day at a Time and try to dress like Valerie Bertinelli because I didn't really have a lot of, you know, other representation until I started watching like The Good Times and Diane Carroll on Dynasty. Like, hello. Like, that to me was the epitome of beauty for black women. She was intelligent. She spoke well, she was powerful, she dressed well. Like that to me, once I saw Diane Carroll, I was like, oh my God, the holy grail of beauty.
Being a housewife now, and just being in Hollywood for 30 years, do you feel, what a beauty in that space? Because it almost feels like there's an aesthetic. I mean, obviously history, being the first black woman on the Beverly Hills franchise, is so epic and iconic, and it feels very different than like Potomac and Atlanta. Your presence in Beverly Hills, I don't know, because...
Well, because I'm the only one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's the difference, right? You know, I think beauty has changed so much nowadays. I think people define beauty in all different ways, which is what's beautiful, right? We can all be different and still be seen as beautiful. We don't have to be cookie cutter, and I feel like there's a lot of women that are trying to be cookie cutter, and I don't like that.
And that's the thing, too. You said you didn't want to get a nose job in the 80s, but then you also opted out of Botox and fillers and all that stuff. I haven't done that. And I say yet because I don't know, but I haven't done that. I say yet as well.
I say yet. And you know, there are times I see things and I go, but I'm not there yet.
Oh my goodness. What makes you feel the most beautiful? When do you feel you're most beautiful?
I think it's when I feel confident, when I've rested, when I feel like I am grounded.
So you're in this space now, in your 50s, where you're actually starting to figure out what you actually like sexually?
Yeah. How about that? I mean, I was brought up, first of all, we didn't talk about sex, but what I got from my family is that you were there to please the man. And it wasn't about your pleasure, it was about his pleasure. So it wasn't until like, you know, my 40s really realizing that I can get pleasure out of it, that I can say what I want and I can ask for what I want. I mean, there was a lot of power to that.
There is so much power.
There is so much power to that.
There is so much power.
Yeah.
So I always like to end the show asking my guest, what should we be asking Garcelle Beauvais that we're not asking?
Am I happy?
Oh.
And I am. I'm happy.
Why do you feel people don't ask you if you're happy or not?
Because I don't think that's something we ask because we're always afraid of the answer. It's like when you say to someone, how are you? You expect good in return. So if they say they're not, you got to stop for a second, right? Because you're expecting, because we always say good, but happy.
Has yes always been the answer? To are you happy?
No.
When did that become yes? Or I mean, it
when
probably
did it become yes? It changes. It changes. Am I happy today? Yes.
What makes it a yes today?
I think again, feeling my power, being back into my body. A couple of days, no, last week I wasn't. I had a lot of things going on in my life that I didn't feel grounded. When I feel grounded and in my skin, in my body, then I can say I'm happy.
So you have a new show, She-Hulk. You play Titania. I'm really intrigued by what you've said about how playing this character has helped you change your relationship to your body.
I had an eating disorder for 20 years, and so it's been a very, very long journey. But being on a show where the comic book character is bigger than I am, so I had to get bigger, and I had to get stronger, and my thighs had to get bigger, and I had to eat more. I had to become physically stronger so that I could believably fight 20 men at once.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
It didn't just give me permission to take up more space, it was the better thing. It's seen as like a beautiful, sexy, cool thing, which was extremely fun and empowering.
I can't wait.
And it's made me like too brave in Ubers now. I'm too brave.
Girl, you gotta watch that
I
Uber
know.
rating.
Listen, my take on it is that I'm Trojan horsing my way in. I've tried to have this conversation from outside, and no one was listening to me. And so I know that I have had to find my way in to be able to have the platform in which I can then challenge these very ideals that I am participating in. And I'm just slowly peeling away layer after layer after layer. And that maybe began with the fact that I don't work out. So I'm not like a super toned, super skinny person. Or I allow the huge stretch marks I have on my breasts to show, and I never let anyone put makeup on them. I am slowly but surely creeping in. Today I'm on the cover of Vogue India, and I have cellulite, and they're not allowed to retouch it. So I'm just microdosing the industry with my personal reality, my flaws, and utilizing conforming for a certain amount of time to finally kind of get my way in. I started by mistake because I kept on seeing pictures on Instagram of very prominent women, and instead of seeing how many awards they won or what they've contributed to society, just what they weigh. And I was like, these women are like broken like world records. And there were no pictures of men that were the same. So in a rage that was slightly fueled by PMS, I tweeted out what I weigh, and that is my relationships, my contributions to society, my failures, my wins. I weigh the sum of all of my parts, and it just completely accidentally went totally viral and has now become a whole movement against shame. Everything is based on saying to someone, it's okay if you don't know yet, it's just really exciting that you want to learn. Here's the best person that I found that I've learned from, learn with me. And if we don't do more of that, no one's going to learn, because we make people feel, what's the point of activism if we don't believe in change, if we don't make people feel like they're capable of change?
I saw this interview you did where you said that when you started wearing makeup in your early 20s, you wore a lot of it. And then with your, I believe, current boyfriend, he loves you without makeup, and he's helped you love yourself without makeup. So we see the Jamila who's out there fighting these systems. And I wonder about when you're maybe with your boyfriend or when you're alone, and how you feel then. And I feel like that's a Jamila that like we don't get to see like publicly. And I'm curious about her.
You do if you follow me on Instagram, because I'm very like myself and real there. I think the only part that even my boyfriend doesn't get to see is who I am when I'm completely on my own, which is feral, and I look like Saddam Hussein at the very end of his life. Capitalism hinges on our self-hatred, right? If we buy things when we're sad, when we need to fill a void, they tell us to go and fix something that they've convinced us is broken that was never broken, right? They keep us broken, they keep us self-obsessed. So it's just about recognizing that's part of a system that is destructive and destroying the world. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to focus on my happiness, my fulfillment, helping others, and then orgasms.